Hello, future people. Welcome to Getting Tabled. I'm Jason the Bruce, and today it's time for round two. So we're back into Super Fantasy Brawl. This is something that I had mixed opinions about when it went back up onto Kickstarter. Mainly because, as much as I understood that we're in the middle of a pandemic and most of Mythic's business does go through Kickstarter, they had specifically said that future releases of this game would be at retail. Now, obviously, the pandemic being the pandemic, that kind of got thrown under the bus because realistically, they had no option to go to retail. It was closed. So I do understand that, but I still think it's worth mentioning because I know that there are other people that have a very different opinion on that. I didn't actually end up backing this Kickstarter. I changed my mind at the last minute, but I changed it too late and I missed it. I actually backed this as a late pledge through the pledge manager, and I've been very excited about this. I still haven't opened any of this. So I own the original game. There is an unboxing of the original game on the channel. I will warn you, it's not my best work. It was one of the very first videos that I did. But if you want to go and have a look at it, you can. But, again, not my best work. But today, we're going to have a look at the new stuff that came with this. So we'll go through each box one at a time and get an idea of what sort of value this was. Alright, so first things first, what we see here is the loose stuff that doesn't come in any of the boxes. I'm not opening these. They're card sleeves. Look, we know what card sleeves are. I don't think it's really worth looking. And I'm not doing tearing tests or anything like that. It's just not the place for it. These, however, I will have a look at, and I'm going to have a look at these first. Now, first things first. Obviously, as far as boxes is concerned, this is kind of dull looking. But I have a feeling that I know why. I think this is the replacement cards from the original set. Which, if I'm right, yeah, I am. So, there was no real point putting them in a fancy box because they're just going to replace old ones. So, foil on the other side is really nice. They all do have a little bit of a curve on it. These are definitely cards that you're going to want to be sleeving because they won't survive otherwise. Just going through them one at a time. It is probably worth noting that this is a game that me and George had talked about trying to record a Let's Play of, pretty much since the release of it, and we never actually did get that chance to do it. It's one of the only games where realistically we could consider playing this internationally, because of the way that the border's set out. It would actually make it easier, but it's because we live in such drastically different time zones, it's always been very difficult to organise that. And if you don't quite understand why it's so difficult, at time of recording, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon for me, and it would be something like 4 o'clock in the morning for him, or so. I'm probably slightly off on that. But yeah, it's a massive difference in time. He would be going to bed at about 2 hours ago. So it's probably about 2 o'clock in the morning for him. Very nice. Now, this particular one, I don't actually know what this is. I think it's a replacement card of some kind. So, oh, this is just a quick start guide. Okay. So, just to give you an idea, there's 4 of these because you potentially have 4 players, and then you get to see both sides. And we have our book. They have an official video. This is actually a YouTube channel. Interested. Clearly, there's some sort of sponsorship going on there, which is fine. Better look at the cover. We're just going to have a quick look through this. I'm not going to be reading everything. Gives you an idea of what comes in the base game, because this is a replacement for the core game. Because there's been a couple of things that were tweaked. Hence the reason why they sent out a new one for those that backed this particular version. So the pledge that I went for was updating the original box set and then everything that I didn't already have. We are starting with Radiant Authority. Really, really gorgeous artwork on the front, which shouldn't really surprise you. On the back, you get an idea of the actual minis. I love that these are represented the way that they are. It's just really, really clear how the sculpt is actually going to look like. The components. Obviously, you've got your cards, you've got your minis, and the same thing but in a different language. Nothing else in the box. So, they are sticking with the same box design that they've had in the previous ones. I know not everybody was a fan of this. I actually do like it. It's the downside of this design is obviously that it does take up a lot more room in the boxes for things that, if I can just show you, realistically this design does not need to be as big as it is. But it is that big for whatever reason. They are including both versions of the card sets again, rather than having to work out what you want. So obviously I'll be using these ones and never the French, but not everybody is that way inclined. Absolutely gorgeous. Everything's pre-built, obviously. You saw that I pulled it straight out of the box, so there's no question about difficulty in building or anything. We've also got this octopus knight looking gentleman. It's like an eldritch knight type ideal. It looks like that this is all fake and that his eyes are actually peeking through the armor down here. I kind of like that idea. That's really cool. So it's an octopus pretending to be a person. I love that. And then finally in this box set is this demon looking guy. Really gorgeous. Now this is a standard spray grey. This is a standard spray grey. And finally, we've got this demon looking guy. Now, all of this box set comes in a really standard sprue grey, which I find interesting because all of the previous ones were coloured. I don't have a problem with that, I'm just mentioning it. It should be fairly obvious on camera. All of the textures on these bases are really nice as well. They're really doing a nice job on these. And up next we have Hot Trick, which is a one that arguably includes one of my favourite minis in the box, in the set. I love the idea of this guy. So again, just giving you an idea of what's inside, all the cards and the minis. I'm not going to take out the insert this time because we already know what it is. But again, you do get an idea of just how much space this takes up that it really doesn't need to. All of this dead space could very well easily be designed another way. These are boxes that are designed to take up the entire space because they're designed for retail shelves, quite clearly. And it's a retail shelf looking box. If they had designed them smaller, honestly, I don't feel it would have really been a problem. The cards, I like that to be protected, but you could probably reduce it down to about that size. The problem, however, is they want all of these boxes to be the same size so that everything is uniform on a shelf. That's the big difference here. And from that perspective, I do understand why there's a large percentage of the community that don't like how much space this holds up. But from a company perspective, I understand why it's done this way. I don't have a problem with it. I mean, it looks fine on a shelf, but if you want to reduce your foot size as much as you can, this is where you come across a problem. So, we've got this Wild West guy coming out first. He's a bit of a Wild West musketeer type looking guy. Because he's all swords, but he's dressed up like he's a musketeer. But with his wild... It's very unique. I really like it. A Wild West musketeer is the best explanation that I can think of. Steampunk assassin type person by the look of it, because you've got these trick blades that are clearly coming out from the wrist. Long flowing coat as opposed to a cape. This is absolutely phenomenal. I really, really like this. That might be one of my surprise favourites so far. Really dynamic. And then finally, the one that I'm expecting to be my favourite. So this is actually 3 nymphs standing on top of each other, trying to make it look like they're a bigger monster. I really love this idea. It's so cool. It's so cool. It makes me think of Trunks and Goten in Dragon Ball Z when they're trying to pretend to be an adult in the competition. If you're not a Dragon Ball Z fan, that's probably not going to make a lot of sense to you. But they are kid fighters that find it offensive that they have to fight in the kids' league and then try to pretend that they're adults. And then finally, we have Mental Might. Again, gorgeous artwork. I really love this idea. And I love that we're seeing more stuff like this as well. Because it's really confusing that it's taken this long. And I know that this is not where it started. I'm not suggesting that at all. The person that designed these things to begin with deserves a lot of credit for coming up with something that I would argue is at least 10 to 15 years too long. It should have been done a long time ago. Again, gives you an idea of what comes in the box. So we're starting out with the Cat Monk. At least that's what I'm calling it. kind of almost a stereotypical monk pose, but I actually do like it. I like it. I mean, I'm not saying it's stereotypical in an offensive manner. It's just, like, monks, this is usually the sort of pose that you tend to think of. This, I feel, is the star of the box, and quite significantly. I like the fact that the legs are portrayed straight down the way that they are. It feels accurate. Feels very, very confident in the way that she's holding the crystal ball, and she's clearly about to strike. Looks like there's tree roots coming up, so she's clearly a druid of some kind. I really like this. That's the surprise hit for me. Oh, this is lovely. So this appears to be a genie of some kind, by the look of it. Absolutely gorgeous. This is clearly her essence coming out as she's still forming. I really like that. So, she's the surprise hit for me. Not because, I mean, I said up front that I was expecting, that I think that this is really good. But I wasn't expecting it to kind of jump out at me the way that it has. It really, really feels... The only thing I'd probably say is I kind of feel like this kind of needs a bit of texture on it. Like just some wooden texture or something. I mean, I'm going to probably paint this up metal, I guess. But it kind of feels stuck on. That's the only real downside there. Everything else is very, very detailed, and that just feels like it's been forgotten. That's probably the only real downside, I'd have to say. So, this is the standard version of the card we was looking at earlier. And his alternate side. And then I'm not going to go through all of these and read all of their detail. I'm just going to give you the opportunity to have a look at what comes in them. The artwork in these is really nice. Like, really, really good. I love the artwork on these. It's not the most complicated artwork in the world, but it's really, really effective. One of the stars of the show right here. Absolutely stunning. These are a standard size card, I believe. So you don't have to buy the sleeves that come with. You can just organise your own. In the Kickstarter, they were fairly well priced, but it's just a matter of what you prefer. I just realised alchemy. That's really clever. I really can't say enough good things about this artwork. So yeah, in the artwork it does show that it's supposed to be metal, so I guess that's why it's bare. I do still kind of feel like that they needed to put more detail into it, because it just feels like it's slapped on. In this artwork, she feels really threatening. Except for maybe that one. It looks like she's kind of gone too fast and skidded. And all of this feels pretty much in theme. And just for the record, the back of them is just a standard card. So, there we go. Looking at Super Fantasy Brawl Round 2. If you was impressed with the first round of this, the sculpts in these continue to go in the same direction. They all feel like they belong in the same world. The way that everything's designed is that these are heroes that come from different points in the world's history and have kind of been brought into the modern day to fight against each other. Because who would win? Superman or Goku is essentially the idea. Hopefully George and I will have a chance to actually get a game in at some point. That's something that we really, really want to do. Thank you very much for checking out this video. If you're enjoying the content of this channel, please like and subscribe. If you're in a position to do so, please check out patreon.com/gettingtabled. You receive early access to at least 80% of all videos that we put out, and you get access to the video edition of all of our podcasts the day that they're uploaded. If you'd like to check us out on social media, facebook.com/gettingtabled is the most active. We also have a Discord server. You can email our team at gettingtabled@gmail.com. If you're on either Twitter or Instagram, you can find us at gettingtabled. And until next time, play more games.